Good evening and a very warm welcome. It's 3 days since the Pahalgam massacre and many things have changed here in Jammu and Kashmir. I myself have just spent the day at the line of control in the Uri sector, making my way back to Srinagar, and we bring you this live special edition of India Matters from the outskirts of Srinagar. At LoC Uri, we had a chance to not only see what the things look like just 3 days after Jammu and Kashmir's worst terror attack, but also spend some time with the people there, the military there and others. Remember, it's a foreboding, ominous time when it's become clear that military action of some kind is likely to be taken against Pakistan. In what shape or form, we don't know, but what we did today is spend time at the line of control to cover all aspects of what's happening there. Take a look at this special report from LoC Uri. 2 days after the Pahalgam massacre, the line of control is heating up rapidly. I'm standing here at line of control in Uri sector, and I'll tell you why that's important in just a moment. But here, along the line of control, that you see there is POK. The Jhelum river is the watershed marking the line of control, and we are reporting along the frontier, the engagement frontier, in many ways the operational frontier between India and Pakistan that has now been activated by the Pakistan army since late last night. Videos have emerged where you can hear machine gun fire. It had initially been reported that firing was only taking place in some sectors, especially this one, the Uri sector of the line of control where I'm reporting from today. But we now know, and NDTV can confirm, that those ceasefire violations by Pakistan last night have actually been taking place along the entire stretch of the line of control, all the way across many posts, but especially here. We are told that just north of where I'm standing on the LoC is a place called Tutmari Gully, where there was a sustained ceasefire violations since late last night. Now, the significance of ceasefire violations is a little complicated, and I do want to explain it because the context here, viewer, is very important. The ceasefire violations do take place periodically. India and Pakistan do have a ceasefire that is active at this point of time. But ceasefire violations taking place in the immediate aftermath of a massive terror attack, like the one that Pahalgam was, makes it belligerent, makes it escalatory, and sends out a different message. You may wonder why Pakistan is firing in the dark. What provoked them to fire? Well, it could be speculative firing. That is the largest consensus, that they're trying to fire in order to see where India's posts are, where the Indian army posts are, whether any movements have actually taken place in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack, where the gaps might actually be, in order to elicit a response from the Indian side, in order to pinpoint where the Indian posts are and whether they've actually moved. It's actually an exercise in intelligence gathering, but there is another aspect to it. And as we report here, and there's a sign here, not very subtle, that says we are under observation, enemy observation, I can tell you that the Pakistan army, especially in light of the clarity that has come in from the Indian political leadership, that something big is coming up. Big military action possibly could be ahead, even though that has not been articulated or enunciated by the political leadership in India. The Pakistan military is also under pressure to show that it is not cowing down, it is not bending down, it is awake, it is alert. Awake is a word that the Pakistan military loves to use in the context of the Indian military, and that's what these ceasefire violations may also be about. Because remember, until the balloon goes up, until conflict actually starts, until a confrontation actually happens, possibly even here along the line of control, the truth of the matter is Pakistan has learned very well from China about what mind games and psychological warfare is all about. And that's the reason why, whether it is Pakistani posts in POK, in that direction, up that hill and beyond it, across the line of control behind me, there's firing taking place, or whether it's on social media where you've got many of the open source intelligence handles and social media accounts of the Pakistan army trying to paint a picture of a very ready, battle ready and prepared military looking for the Indian military to make its first move. Pakistan is trying to send out and radiate an image of readiness and preparedness. Now, It is not for us to guess or decide what military action or if military action will be taken. All indications are it could be. But this particular place where I'm reporting from right now has a huge amount of significance. This is a place from where infiltrations have regularly taken place. This is a place where the famous 2016 surgical strikes happened as well. And this is not very far from the Uri camp where one of the worst terror attacks actually took place. And that's the reason why, as we continue to report and navigate the fallout of Pahalgam, where I'm standing could possibly be very, very important. At LoC Uri in Jammu and Kashmir with Ashwini Mehra, Shiv, Aroor, NDTV. The roar of the Jhelum river that you see here at line of control Uri sector perhaps portends the kind of action that India has taken already against Pakistan and will be taking perhaps in the near future. As we stand here looking over the Jhelum river at one of its roughest phases before flowing directly into Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, India's first interim punitive measure against Pakistan was the Indus River Treaty. Now, the treaty itself is something that is being seen almost unanimously as something that was untouchable between India and Pakistan. India could never touch it. Over the years, India had hinted at scrapping or suspending the Indus River Treaty. But Pakistan had always laughed and said, you can't do that because it is monitored and administered by the World Bank. So how can you even think of suspending the river treaty? Well, the truth is India has gone ahead and done exactly that in the aftermath of the Pahalgam massacre. The Indus River Treaty, just to brief those of our viewers who may not be fully familiar, is a treaty that was signed in 1960, September 1960 to be precise. Nehru, General Ayub. It was basically a treaty about water sharing. All of these rivers that flow westward from India into Pakistan are the lifeblood of many things in Pakistan, from their hydroelectric energy to almost 80% of their agriculture, which means that cutting off supply of any of these rivers or all of them means that you're hitting energy security, food security, farmer security, and the economy of Pakistan in general. And that's one of the reasons why the Indus River Treaty that India has now suspended against Pakistan and which involves one of the key rivers being the Jhelum that you see here at line of control Uri, hits an economic jugular vein for Pakistan. Now, where have we heard the word jugular vein recently? That was General Asim Munir of the Pakistan Army, the Chief of Army Staff. But in this case, it is truly a jugular vein. Imagine if almost all of your energy depends on the rivers flowing from India into Pakistan. Most of your agriculture and food security depends on the rivers that flow westward into Pakistan. Now, obviously, India doesn't have a flip switch that can simply overnight turn these rivers off. It doesn't work like that. It'll take a while. But by conveying the intention and conveying its decision to hold in abeyance this entire treaty, which is 65 years old now, let's remember, India has indicated that things have gone way beyond normal with the Pahalgam massacre and that this isn't just a red line that has been crossed, this is humanity that has been destroyed by Pakistan. And that's one of the reasons why, standing here on the banks of the Jhelum River, we can be very clear about what the Indian government is trying to do. Already such a big action has been taken. What actions go forward from it will possibly be even bigger. With Ashwini Mehra at LoC Uri, Shiv, Aroor, NDTV. There are many reasons why line of control Uri sector, LoC Uri, where I'm standing here, the LoC is right behind me, is so important. It's also a reason why so many people know about it. The 2016 surgical strikes happened just across the line of control in that direction. It was from there that terrorists had slipped in and attacked the Uri army camp just a short distance from where I'm bringing you this report from the ground. And it is also here, just a day after the Pahalgam massacre, that infiltrators managed to slip across the line of control, but then they ran into the Indian army and were killed. 2 of them were killed. LoC Uri has always been a restive sector along the entire 700+ kilometer line of control. The truth of the matter is, it has been considered an infiltration highway in some ways. Just across the LoC, there are many launch pads. Those were the ones that were hit during the 2016 surgical strikes. Of course, the film that came out has pushed the word Uri into the public and popular consciousness. It's part of our culture now as well. But Uri itself is no joke. There's nothing entertaining about being deployed in this area. It's a sector which is shaped like a bulge with three sides, basically Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So you're surrounded on three sides by Pakistan-occupied Kashmir if you're in the army and deployed in this area. And it's never very difficult, considering that in many parts of LoC Uri, the Pakistan army posts have a bit of an advantage. They're not very far apart. Ceasefire violations, including the ones that happened last night, took place in this sector and many others as well. Whatever action comes next from the Indian government, one can be reasonably sure that LoC Uri will be part of it. Now, whether there's going to be military action or not is, of course, entirely a political decision. But here, as we've interacted with the army officers and soldiers, we will never take their names, of course, because they're deployed here on duty, doing their professional work and carrying out a very, very difficult job at a very, very difficult time. All we can say is we wish them well, we wish them Godspeed, we thank them for their service, and we hope they don't need to be sent into battle. With Ashwini Mehra at LoC Uri, Shiv Aroor, NDTV. Welcome back to India Matters. This is a special edition broadcast that we're bringing to you from here on the outskirts of Srinagar after reporting from the line of control in Uri at a time when there are war clouds between India and Pakistan and a great deal of uncertainty. Our special guest today on India Matters is Admiral Arun Prakash, former Chief of the Naval Staff, someone I've known for a very long time, someone who has fought in a war and has been decorated in the 1971 India-Pakistan war. So he knows what war is really all about, and he's been a commentator ever since on military affairs. A privilege as always, Admiral Prakash, to have you here on this special broadcast. Thanks for your time once again. I wish these were in better circumstances, but the truth is 3 days after the Pahalgam massacre, sir, there is a definite and palpable sense that there is going to be some form of conflict between the two countries. Your sentiments and your thoughts at this time, first off, sir.
Well, first of all, it was a very tragic event that took place on 22nd when a group of innocent tourists who were visiting Pahalgam were gunned down by ruthless terrorists who obviously came from across the border. That's a great tragedy and something that constitutes a grave security crisis for us. But let us remember that this is just a part of a continuum that's been going on for the last 35 odd years. From 1989, the Pakistanis have felt free to cross our border and attack military, civilian targets and so on. And some of them have been very prominent, like Pathankot, Uri, etc., which you mentioned. Now, the problem here is that if we go back in time, I think our first misstep was to coin the term cross-border terrorism. I mean, this possibly was a convenient and soft term, but it gave an escape clause to Pakistan, because anything that came across the border, across the international border or the line of control should have been treated as aggression or war. So if we had started off by saying that anything that comes across the LoC or the international border will be treated as an act of war, and we will respond accordingly. And thereafter, there should have been a doctrine. I mean, we launched surgical strikes and so on, which are very we hoped at that time that they would have beneficial results, act as deterrents, but they should have been accompanied by a clear articulation of our national policy that we will not tolerate any such acts in future, and there will be a instant and effective response. We failed to do that. We haven't articulated a doctrine. So I don't know how effective the 2016 and 2019 strikes were and whether they conveyed a message of deterrence to Pakistan or not. Obviously, they haven't. We have failed to deter Pakistan, and they've continued with this policy of cross-border, so-called cross-border terrorism, the policy of bleeding us by 1,000 cuts and so on.
So that brings us to the question, Admiral Prakash, of what now? I agree with everything you've just said in terms of, deterrent not quite having worked in the way perhaps that the country wanted, given that terror attacks have happened since as well. What would you prescribe now? The reason I ask that is not to go into specifics, but because in Pahalgam, the one thing you constantly hear is that a very big red line has been crossed. And now, from everything that we've been hearing from the political establishment, to things happening on the ground as well, it seems that something is going to happen. We don't know what that something is, but what do you think needs to be the next step, given every misstep, as you say, has been made so far?
I think this red line has been crossed many times, but obviously public opinion, political pressure will build up, and terms like revenge and muh tod jawab denge, etc. I mean, those are issues that have to be handled at the political level. But we are not interested in revenge. We are interested in deterrence. Yeah. We must make it clear to Pakistan. And when we speak of Pakistan, we should be talking about the power that drives Pakistan's domestic and foreign policies, and that is the ISI, the Inter-Services Intelligence, and the Pakistan Army. The Pakistan Army chief very recently made a very unusual, unsoldierly, and silly speech, aggravating speech. So I think we need to act in such a manner, apart from revenge and so on, which I think the politicians should be able to handle that aspect. We should act in a manner that will deter Pakistan, that will threaten Pakistan with punishment that will hurt it, so that it does not contemplate an act such as this one again. That is the definition of deterrence. But that means that the pain of doing something is so immense that the enemy will hesitate or think 10 times before doing it. And there are many ways of doing that. I mean, apart from kinetic action, you can't go ahead and take kinetic action. Our armed forces are quite capable of inflicting pain on Pakistan. But remember that Pakistan is not, I mean, the equation is not like USA versus Iran or Libya or the Houthis. We are speaking of a near peer adversary. Right. Their armed forces are as professional as ours. So if we take kinetic action, there will be a response. And then there will be more public pressure to respond to the response. So we are stepping on an escalatory ladder. Well, there's no harm. We've got armed forces. That's what they are meant for, to fight wars. But that's a political decision that has to be carefully considered and taken. That if we go kinetic right away as a knee-jerk reaction, or in the sense of taking revenge or muh tod jawab, then it will be stepping on an escalatory ladder for which we must be prepared. Well, why not? 1 round, 2 round, 3 round, we should be prepared for that. But are we prepared, and are we prepared to pay the cost, the economic cost, the developmental cost, etc.? So having said that, there are other means of inflicting pain on Pakistan. We have many advantages. Militarily, we are still superior, although the edge is eroding away quite fast. We must be conscious of that. But we are still superior militarily. Yeah. Economically, we are far, far superior. Our GDP is many, many times more than that. Geographically, Pakistan is a thin, narrow country. It can be cut into 2 or 3. Diplomatically, in the world today, India is far stronger than Pakistan. We may not be Vishwaguru yet, but we have considerable clout in places of influence. So our effort now should be to get Pakistan declared either a terrorist state or a state which has supported terrorism. And this is no secret. 9/11 was there, 26/11 was there. Everybody, the whole world knows. Tahawwur Rana is with us. David Headley is sitting in America. Then there's Uri, then there was Pathankot. So the whole world knows that Pakistan has been, and not just non-state actors, it has been the Pakistani state. So we should try our best to get Pakistan declared terror or terrorist state, and try and get sanctions imposed on it. That's what's going to hurt it. Its economic state is quite dire. It's teetering on the edge. So if FATF is brought into action, or if America imposes some dire sanctions on it, that's going to hurt. We can impose sanctions ourselves. So those are the kind of things that are going to hurt Pakistan and perhaps deter them, rather than 1 or 2 kinetic actions which could lead to responses and escalation and so on. I think that's the way to go.
Very true, sir, and I agree with that as well. I think most people focus too much on what kind of kinetic action might be coming up, rather than a more 360-degree sort of set of actions that can be taken to pin Pakistan down. There were a few interim measures that were announced, including most notably the Indus Water Sharing Treaty that has been now held in abeyance. I wanted to know what you specifically thought of that, because most people haven't quite absorbed the gravity of holding that particular treaty in abeyance, and that is being interpreted around the world as perhaps one of the biggest moves against Pakistan and something that should have been done far earlier.
Well, the Water Treaty was a sign that international law prevails and treaties are sacrosanct and so on. And in spite of so many wars that we fought against Pakistan, the Indus Water Treaty was obeyed by both sides. So this was a very good and well thought out action. I think by abrogating or temporarily suspending the Indus Water Treaty is a sign that India is serious about this business. The effect of the Indus Water Treaty, I mean, will take time. You can't overnight switch off river waters and so on. But
Yes.
it is a good signal to send to Pakistan that India is serious, and this is just the first step, and there could be many more to follow. And I think it's time for our diplomats to swing into action and prove their worth, because we now have to convince the whole world that this is a country which is it's on the verge of being a rogue country, which is continuously interfering in our internal affairs, is continually inflicting violence, trying to destabilize India, and with people like the army chief making irresponsible statements. I think we should prevail upon America, President Trump. I mean, he's good at sacking people. One of the good signs would be to have the Pakistani army chief sacked, have him sanctioned. I mean, America is famous for sanctioning people. Individuals are sanctioned for their action. Well, here, let's sanction the DG ISI. Let's sanction the Pakistani army chief for his provocative statements. So I think our diplomats should spread around the world and drum up, world opinion and push Pakistan into a corner. And we can always hold the threat of kinetic action. That option is always available to us, whether it is army, air force, or even the navy. I mean, the navy we can threaten economic strangulation of Pakistan. They've got a short coast. They are 100 or maybe 99% dependent on imports for energy, for food, for everything. And the navy can sit outside the Pakistani coast and impose some kind of a blockade. But for that, we need support of friends and allies. We can rustle up. And Pakistan, again, is guilty of terrorism, not only land terrorism, maritime terrorism. 2611 was a act of maritime terrorism.
Yes.
Then there's drug smuggling going on. There's human smuggling going on at sea. Those are all actions that the Indian Navy can say we want to inspect any ship going into Karachi or Pasni or Gwadar. We want to board them. We want to arrest them. We can mount a fairly tight sort of threat to them. So all these signals should be sent out that we can do plenty to you. And we have the kinetic option up our sleeve all the time.
One final question, Admiral Prakash. Since you mentioned the United States and Trump, just before we began this broadcast, the head of U.S. intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has put out a comment on her social media, using very strident words, saying we support India completely in hunting down everyone responsible for what happened in Pahalgam. That's what she said in that comment. Obviously, I don't want to overanalyze or get into the semantics of words being used by leaders, but do you think that something has changed in the unanimous level of support India has had this time, and that coupled with what the United States is saying provides the kind of opportunity to do the things that you've just mentioned?
Yes, I think for the last decade or so, the USA has been trying to get India, away from sitting on the fence and getting it inside the tent. But under this particular administration, there are individuals who have strong linkages with India, which they don't hesitate to speak about, and hopefully they will, put them into action. So before the time runs out, Shiv, I just want to put out a small message that one of the results desired by the ISI and by the Pakistani actors is to cause a huge split in India on religious lines. So hence this business of Hindu-Muslim business is going on. They've targeted Hindus, etc. And that has triggered off responses all
Yes.
over the country against Kashmiri students. Now that is exactly what our Pakistani adversaries want us to do. So through your medium, may I
Correct.
request the
They
media to
succeed if
hold
that
back.
happens. Yes.
Yes, and I am a Kashmiri myself. I want to tell you, I was born 40 miles away from where you're standing now, in
Yes.
Anantnag. So that hurts when I hear Kashmiri
Correct,
students
sir.
are
I
being
know that.
beaten up, when they are being beaten up for something that Pakistani terrorists did in India. So the media has a big role to play in this by cutting out this nonsense.
Not only will we highlight and are highlighting those stories, Admiral Prakash, we completely support your message and we will make sure it goes out everywhere. I myself have been here for the last couple of days and I appreciate all of the words you've just said. We value them very highly. And I know you get embarrassed by praise, but I want to repeat that once again. A person who has seen war, a person who has been decorated in war. Admiral Arun Prakash was a pilot in the 1971 war and he flew missions in enemy airspace and was decorated for it. And a person who has seen war and been in war can understand war more than anyone else perhaps. So Admiral Arun Prakash, once again, a real privilege to have you and thank you for your words and wisdom here on India Matters. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
sir.
Shiv. Keep up your good work.
And I'd just like to end India Matters. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'd like to end India Matters tonight by saying that we have met military and security personnel from different agencies for the last 48 hours. All of them are standing their ground, standing a post, doing their professional duty with a great deal of commitment and professionalism. And we wish them once again Godspeed. Many of them might be in operational areas and in operations very soon, depending on what India decides to do. And we'd like to wish them the very best on behalf of all Indians. Thank you so much for watching.